Welcome to the sun-drenched tropical paradise of the Isle Delfino Blue Coin Cast. We are so pleased to welcome you to our wonderful home. This is the one and only podcast purely devoted to Super Mario Sunshine, the 2002 GameCube hit title. As the Islander folk say, come enjoy our natural wonderland to which we've added the world's finest resort facilities, a spectacular amusement park, and succulent seafood. All this and more await you in Isle Delfino. Come relax and let us refresh your body and spirit. My name is Xander Morningstar, and I will be your co-host this evening along with my fellow Sunshine sweetheart, Brett Posner-Ferdman.
Hello.
And we are both kindly welcoming our very first vacationer ever on this beautiful Blue Coin podcast, Mr. James Jones.
I'd like to point out that you spent more time on that intro than Nintendo did on making that game good.
That's not the reaction I was expecting from you at all, but all right. Okay, I'll take it.
So the way this tropical island vacation podcast is going to work is that there will be 240 blue coins, with each one being attached to a contribution to the show. Guest appearances, YouTube comments, contributions in the forums will all be awarded a blue coin. And as long as Xander and I choose to feature them, of course. And anything featured will appear on screen on the following episode, so people will be featured, and we can showcase people's love or hate for the game.
Yeah, that would be James. And you were under the assumption that we were talking about the greatest games of all time, I believe, and I figured that was the only fair way to bring you on this show. What are you thinking right now, James?
I'm enjoying that Discord is cutting off about a third of what you're saying, which I think is making this experience significantly better. Rather than hearing people talk about Super Mario Sunshine.
Oh no!
Relish in all the good things. So
perfect. Well, yes, this is going to be a discussion about Super Mario Sunshine. A very enjoyable game by my standards. A less enjoyable game by some other people in the podcast.
I have like a 2.5 hour podcast of me talking about Super Mario. I could just go get that if that would make you feel better.
Yeah, no, I'm well aware that you had a nice retroactive on it. I think I took part on that retroactive as well.
I believe you did.
We had a discussion. That was before I even was on staff. We had a discussion in the staff chat about jokingly starting a Super Mario Sunshine podcast and what that would look like to everyone that hasn't played the game, has played the game, and because it feels like everyone has an opinion on this game in some way, shape, or matter. And Brett and I thought it would be kind of fun if we just created an outlet for people to kind of voice their opinion on this game in particular. And I know that you had a retroactive on it, but I did think it would be pretty funny if I got you on the podcast without you realizing what the podcast actually was. So here we are.
I want to make it clear that I've only been the host of RFN for 3 years, roughly. That means I have 7 years of disrupting podcast experience. For the 10 years I've been on the show, most of it was spent being the problem. So whatever awful thing you've done here, which is extensive. This is an extensively awful decision you have made.
Listen, you can blame Neil for this as well. He was the one who pushed for this.
Oh, good. No, that's perfect, because that just means I now have a free hand to do whatever I want. With
well, I don't know about that.
Consider it a favor, James. Consider it a favor. Yes. All right. So because we've got multiple episodes lined up here, we're not going to go super in depth. We're going to just kind of keep this light and casual. If you want to hear like really deep dives, like the 2 hours.
You have multiple episodes of a Super Mario Sunshine podcast planned?
I'm dead serious.
Are you going to spend 2 hours on the stupid squid minigame? What the hell? Hey, let's do a live blog of somebody trying to play the pachinko machine for the first. Oh, they killed themselves. Okay, never mind.
Well, we've got to kill 240 blue coins somehow, James.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast is 3 minutes long. At the end of it, somebody smashed their computer and walked out.
Yeah, that would be.
There are 4 reviews for Super Mario Sunshine on the site. There's a 10 from Johnny, who I knew Johnny at this point in his life. I'm just going to say. There's 2 9.5s, one from Billy. I know Billy currently. I'm still going to say, there's one from Rick, who I didn't really have much experience with Rick. And then there's an 8 There's an 8. And that person was almost on the right path to where this belongs.
Yeah, I think I should write a 5th one.
It's 5 is a good number. Yeah, that's a good number. Let's see.
If you double that, it's an even better number, right?
I agree.
If you don't like yourself, sure. Yeah, it's the great.
I love myself.
I'm fascinated that people are like, this gameplay is perfect, and I'm like, fuck you. Did you play this game? Because I have an 8-hour Twitch stream where about 20 minutes of it was the camera stuck in a wall. So
Yeah, so admittedly the camera not the best. I will say I still think Mario controls the best in this game than any other. Even Mario Odyssey, which I think comes pretty dang close, but I really like how Mario controls in Sunshine. Whereas you had a very different experience.
It's not a matter of how it controls. It's more an issue of the fact that the controls are given a tremendous boost from the fact that you can hover. So your perception of the controls your perception of a game's controls is basically a function of you feeling like your inputs are being translated into your will. And because the game has that soft, we'll say soft floor for you to land on, it's easy for you to walk away feeling like my intention has been translated to act. Because there's a cover, there's a thing you can do to make up for any ambiguity in the control or any kind of floppiness you encounter dealing with the game. You just boost and save yourself.
But
so
that's
to that,
necessarily a bad thing.
No, I'm not suggesting it's a bad thing, but I'm saying that will always make this game's control perception better because you can get away with just basically half-assing it sometimes. I'm gonna jump at this thing and I'll make it.
Well, even in the bloodless levels, I would argue they control better than Mario 64.
I don't know.
I'm a Chuckster. Says that's not true.
That should be the name of the podcast. I'm a Chuckster.
I think that's what we called the RFN one.
Right.
It may have been called Kill All Chucksters. I'm not sure. Which is a correct response.
I would identify as a Chuckster then.
That's a shame. You've got to go, unfortunately. Like it's an entire, self-identifying population that singular focus in life is to chuck people into an abyss. That makes them actual murderers.
Yeah, I will say the very first time you get chucked by a Chuckster, it's pretty unsettling. And then afterwards, you kind of know what you're doing, but the concept remains very, very silly regardless.
You do and you don't, because they all throw you different distances. So there is this sense of like, well, I'm going to screw this up the first time.
And it changes based on like the angle of the dialogue that you're talking to, which I don't know any other game like uses that the angle of how you approach an NPC as like an actual game mechanic. But
well, and it's
Super Mario Sunshine, innovating since 2002.
It's really hard to square it up for the longer jumps too. Because the camera doesn't want to tell you, like, are you directly lined up right? Or are you slightly off on the Chuckster? Because on the long ones, he's going to launch you into the sun. Have a good time. Honestly, like, anybody just, I'm a Chuckster. It's just like, no, you need to die. Immediately. Honestly, the entire Pinta race is of questionable value.
Oh, come on. So if they announced Pianta for Smash, you wouldn't be excited?
No, because I get to knock it off the edge 1,000 times.
His final Smash is the Chuckster.
Well, they are in Smash. They're in the background of the Super Mario Sunshine stage, which could be a whole episode, I know, but we'll get to that.
It's just, I feel like this game has, and I don't understand how. I think a certain amount of it is people played it. This game's about 16 years old at this point. 17.
Yeah.
I think people just played it a long time ago.
So you would have been in like high school.
Right? I was 17 in 2002. Yes, yeah. I'd have been like a freshman. It'd have been between freshman and sophomore year.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I was 5, so
there you go.
My comprehension of good game design was not as.
So you might have been able to enjoy the 35-minute cutscene of Mario flying to an island you have to sit through before you can play Mario games?
That was pretty good.
It was my first game.
Okay.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mario Sunshine was my first ever game.
It was one of my first. I know that. It was the first game I played on the GameCube.
I'm trying to think about how many games I owned at that point, and it's probably embarrassing. I know there were multiple bins worth of games at this point. So this,
you had a pretty good library with the NES, right?
I had an extensive library.
That's what I mean.
It was universally atrocious, but I had many games. They were just all bad. Almost to the point of like this was deliberate. So what I would say is the thing about that game is that this was the first of the big franchises to hit GameCube. Well, I mean, Smash wasn't necessarily established yet. This was only the second Smash game. Although I was more than ready for it when it came out. I mean, it was a big deal. We knew it was going to be a big deal. I remember distinctly going to actually probably was the PGC predecessor at that point. Well, it would have been, it had been Planet N 2000. Amongst other sites, and just looking at screenshots, because ain't nobody had video in 2001 on their website. It's not happening. But like by the time, but there was this kind of a gap because Smash comes out in
2001.
I want to 2002, I think. Maybe it was 2001. Because the GameCube comes out around Thanksgiving, it comes out around Thanksgiving 2001, and Smash is not there at launch. Maybe it came a few weeks later. I thought it came early the next year, but it's been a while, obviously.
Your experience with this game when it was like first coming out is honestly what I think I'm most interested in. I was a lot younger, so it was just a game at GameStop for me that I got. So, from your perspective, do you remember following this at all, or were you even at the point where?
Oh yeah. So the GameCube had kind of we'll call it light lineup, all things considered. This was the first major franchise game. There had been some stuff at launch. Obviously, there had been Luigi's Mansion. There had been all that stuff, but this was like this is your Mario, Zeldas. I was following it. I remember distinctly the game came out, I want to say August 26th. I think that was the day, August 28th, something like that, like at the dead ass end of August. And I remember that because basically I started school like
August 26th.
There you go.
So that's prime school time.
I started school like a week later after a summer of basically nothing coming out for the stupid system. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Nintendo. So I careened through this game fairly quickly, because I wasn't working that summer. I was too young to work, so I wasn't like I was doing anything. So I was basically just slumming around the house, because I didn't have any money. So this thing was like just jammed through pretty fast. But yeah, I mean it was a big deal. Zelda obviously was a big deal, but that came significantly later. Metroid Prime, like all those games came out, and they were big, noisy releases. So it wasn't. What's the best way of saying it? It wasn't like I wasn't following it, and I was excited to get it. And I want to say I remember coming home with it, but I'm not 100% sure that's true. It's possible there's a different game I'm remembering, but I'm pretty sure I just sat down and played it for a while because the GameCube was in the office, so it's not really a public room. There's other people will come and go in there, but it wasn't like a room that people came in a lot. And I think I just sat down and played it for, we'll say, a long time.
So would you say you consider yourself like someone who had enjoyed Mario 64, or maybe a little disappointed that there wasn't a Mario game at the GameCube launch, and that was Luigi's Mansion, and so you were kind of anticipating this as the spiritual successor to, I guess it just is the sequel to Mario 64?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody was bummed that Luigi's Mansion's great, but Luigi's Mansion's short. It's incredibly short.
5 hours max.
At the time, Luigi's Mansion was shocking, because it was a very weird game to play. It felt very different. It looked really cool. I beat it before I was supposed to have it because I got the GameCube as a Christmas gift, and I was allowed to play it for one day, and then it was hidden. The problem is they always hid shit in the same place. And since I went to school and then came home at I got out of school at 1:45 in the afternoon.
Wow.
I had a lot of time to myself. I had beaten the game like weeks before Christmas. And so when I got the game, I was like, well, I don't have anything to play. That sucks.
Oh, man, that blows.
So yeah, I was very much looking forward to a Mario game. I wasn't necessarily thinking of it as, oh, this is the sequel to Mario 64. I was just thinking like, oh, this is a Mario game. I like Mario games. I have played a great many of them. I suspect I will like this one quite a bit. And so yeah, it was just a matter of, okay, well, now you get to wait almost a year after the system releases. Because the system came out in November of 2001. This game came out in August of 2002. Like it's 10 full months between system release and the Mario game. So that's okay.
With the Switch, it wasn't that much different. I mean, it was 8 months from Switch launch to Mario Odyssey, so...
Yeah, but there was a Zelda game. There was Xenoblade came out after it, right? Yeah. There was stuff. Now, it wasn't like now where we look at the Switch lineup and just go, Christ, really? It was not as absurdist as it is now, but it's still like we were supplied between then and now. The GameCube lineup, there were about 5 games that launched that were more or less worth playing, 5-ish. Pikmin came out in December that year, I think, and then Smash did come out in December as well. But yeah, still, that was it. Then you're getting into things like Jeremy McGrath's Supercross World. I think the next game I bought was Agent Under Fire and Bloody Roar Primal Fury. And so if you're thinking like, oh, this kid who doesn't have a job is buying Bloody Roar Primal Fury, that should give you an idea where we were.
Sure. So did this feel like a satisfying, like when you first pop it in, you start playing it, did this feel like, yeah, this is like the sequel to Mario 64, this is what I wanted, or was it really weird? Because I think as the game has aged, I think people will almost put it in a different category than being an actual sequel to Mario 64.
Yeah, I don't think I thought about it in those terms. I mean, I'd played Mario 64 5 years prior. Like, it had been a long time.
It was about a 6-year wait, and not wait, but just the gap in between these two
and so
games.
I played Mario 64 about a year or two after it came out. And then that was the last time I touched it. So it had been a while. So I really wasn't compartmentalizing that game in the context of Mario 64. I was just kind of going through and playing it. It wasn't like Wind Waker, where I had gone and played Ocarina of Time. What did they call it? Master Quest, before it came out, because of course they had that pre-order disc. So I had just played its predecessor again. Yeah, I mean, I think I was more or less of the mind that, like, hey, the last thing I played was Eternal Darkness back in June. I'll play fucking anything. And so, yeah, I mean, I just kind of sat there and worked through it, I think. I don't think I ever really contextualized it more broadly in the context of Mario games. I do, and there's always this weird sense of when you're talking about a game you played 10 plus years ago, and then played again, that you retroactively apply your current thoughts to your dumbass kid self. And so there's a certain amount of like trying to step backwards through my memory to make sure that I don't do that. But
no, believe me, that's been my fight every day with NWR. I'm constantly trying to challenge myself and think back to the games I've held up for years and years, and I've only been with the site for 2 years now, and I'm always having to reevaluate my thoughts when I go back to a game I haven't played in a while, but I'm asked to talk about it. And that was very much the case when RFN did the retroactive Super Mario Sunshine, and admittedly, I was still like kind of gushing about that the entire time. But I recognize the faults a lot more.
When we announced that retroactive, I can't remember how that one got picked. I don't think it was I think it might have been a vote. The running joke of democracy has failed us again definitely comes up in that episode. But I at the time had some trepidation, because I definitely recall having some frustration with that game in the moment. And so I I don't think I was as hip to the nonsense that game does sometimes. Like the real just like unforgivable nonsense that game will occasionally just do, like the watermelon level, where you're like, nobody played this and had a good time. Nobody in Kyoto had fun with this. Why did it stay in the game? Was it just they felt they needed, 8 shines and they couldn't think up a different one? Because the watermelon stage is just garbage. It's a bad stage. If you haven't played it, basically the challenge is you have to take a watermelon and roll it down the beach all the way up across a dock, which the dock's really narrow, to get it to a fruit blender. And you have to get the right watermelon, and it's the biggest one. And the biggest one is like way far back on the island. And there's like physics, so as you push it in certain directions, it rolls. You might think, oh, that sounds obnoxious, but not too bad.
But these watermelons have like the skin of a balloon. They will pop.
And there's these duck-billed jackasses who run around and just fling things in the air. And they will fling the watermelon, and the watermelon will break, and you will have to do it all over again. And it's probably about 2 to 3 minutes to get it down there if you run into no problems, which means every time you run into problems, reset the clock. And you can't kill those little duck-billed monsters. All you can do is stun them, and then they come back. So they're just like, you just really have to get fairly lucky. And it's not like there's a ton of things like this in Sunshine. I would say there's probably about 7 shines or so that are trash, like just like actual trash. But I just remember thinking at the time when I played it, because again, the last game I had played was Eternal Darkness back in June, a game that made me feel all the way scared. Like I was going to get everything this game had to offer. And so like I subjected myself to the cruddy watermelon level. And it's like, well, we're going to do it. We're going to beat this stupid level. And I think it took me like 40 minutes.
I remember playing that level and spending days on it. It was so hard, but I eventually did it as a kid. There were a few levels in this game I could not beat as a child. I eventually just gave up, and I was like, you know what? I can't play Mario Sunshine anymore. This game is too hard. I'm stuck. And a lot of them were the levels where you didn't have that. You didn't have F.L.U.D. to use as
the abyss
as a crutch, right? And a lot of people really like those levels now because they took away that handicap that you had. Whereas, a kid, you kind of grew up playing this one game. You get used to the controls of just always using the hover. And some of those jumps are pretty tough if you are just using Mario, but there's no other area in the game where you're just practicing using Mario. You're always using the F.L.U.D. And so those always got really difficult for me. The lily pad ride is another good example of that, but that you still have the F.L.U.D. with you. But a lot of those F.L.U.D.-less levels were very difficult.
Yeah, and I think that if we're just talking purely about the controls of the game, those are the stages where you can understand where they do well, and there are places where they do well. Like Mario has a lot of moves in this game, maybe more than he needs, to be honest. Like there's multiple ways to do jumps that get you high in the air. And so sometimes it's a matter of like, okay, especially in the very late game on those stages where it's like, how does it want me to get there? And you might have to try 2 or 3 different ways to get more vertical. On the stream, there's a stage where PokePal from the forums actually like walks me through it, and it's this weird combination of like the back jump and then bouncing off walls that I didn't even know you could do. And like that's really the only way you can get to a place where then Mario might grab the ledge, or he might fling himself off into the abyss. Who knows? It's all fun. But like all the moves that he has, the fact that you can execute them relatively consistently. Now the effect may not be consistent, but the fact that you can execute 7 or 8 different types of jumps does speak to like a certain degree of skill used in crafting the controls themselves. I think the question on those is like, did we did we need to have so many jumps? I understand people who think that's like, oh man, Mario's got like 14 jumps in this game. It's like nothing else. It's like, well, yeah, it's true. But why though? Like, what was the purpose
Well, I have
of
to
them
say,
all?
as a kid, when I was first playing Mario Sunshine, one of the coolest things to me was learning how each different jump was performed. And even though you never got exactly the same result as of it, seeing all the different mobility options that Mario did it just made Mario fun to control for me. And that's why I continued to play. Mario was just fun to control with F.L.U.D. or without F.L.U.D. Every few minutes I was discovering a new move, and that just kept me playing and playing and playing, even if I wasn't getting stuff done. Like, I remember getting stuck on the second shine with Petey Piranha. I could not figure out how to get to the top of the windmill, but just playing around in the world and collecting the 100 coins or whatever it may be, it was just fun to control Mario.
Yeah, frankly, the game does not do a good job of showing you how to use each jump. I'm kind of going through how the game starts. The very first thing you fight a boss using F.L.U.D. You do that a few more times, like these big painted piranha plant kind of creatures coming out of the scoop. And then you have to chase the Shadow Mario character several times. But again, all of this is using the F.L.U.D. character. You never really need to jump by any means. It's not until you get to the very first open area where you fight Petey Piranha, and there's the windmill.
Bianco Hills.
Thank you. Yeah. So you go there, but again, there's not a whole lot of like platforming until the later shines in that world, where a lot of those like coins are hidden on top of the windmills or the really big windmill where you have to fight Petey Piranha. But again, there's just not a whole lot of that until you get to those later levels. But by that point, those are like kind of expertly crafted, and they're not meant to show you how to do anything. Frankly, the biggest thing I can think of that has even an approach to just showing you how to jump, which is kind of silly to say, is in the very beginning of Bianco Hills, where you're kind of going down that slide, you need to cross the river. There's like a tightrope or there's a log to get through to the other side, and it's like you have to jump there. And I guess it's them trying to show you you can balance on this like tightrope, or you could just conversely jump and then use the hover. So. I guess that is like a bit of a flaw that they don't show you how to use all of these different, very versatile jumps in this game, which is a bit of a shame.
I agree. I think a menu or something, if you pause the game, there should have been some sort of a prompt to show you just exactly like how to perform each of the different moves. Like, I think Super Mario Maker 2 does it perfectly, where you pause, you scroll down, and each of Mario's different moves are showcased and how to perform them, but it's not intrusive with the tutorial.
Right, and Super Mario Odyssey has that action guide. You can pause, and it'll show you every single move. It shows Mario actually doing it. It has a little bit of a tutorial. It's all very right there. And also, Super Mario Sunshine was back in the days where Nintendo made very lengthy manuals, and I'd have to imagine all of those moves are probably printed in there, but they're not really present in the game. So that's a bit of a shame there. But it's appreciated.
I'll have to pull out the old manual for the next episode, and I'll double check on that. But I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's right there. I can go check.
Okay. James Jones is looking right now, everybody.
Having
Who would have thought that the person most prepared would be James Jones for the Super Mario Sunshine episode?
Well, he adores Mario Sunshine, so of course he has to be prepared.
That's true. I can hear him mumbling in the background, so that's fine.
Oh, good lord.
We have several different areas in Super Mario Sunshine, and a lot of people complain that this game is primarily beach themed. And yeah, sure, that's kind of the case, but to be quite honest, there's really only one big beach area, and that's Gelato Beach. There is the Serena Beach, which has the ghost house of the level, sure. Noki Bay and Rico Harbor are primarily water themed. Noki Bay being a lot more vertical, Rico Harbor just being more of the water area, and Bianco Hills is a bit more of a standard grass level with just some fun village windmill approaches to a first level. Pina Park is a carnival, and then you have Pianta Village, which is a very different kind of flat open area with some vertical aspects, but I think that level honestly is more designed around the under area of the level. which not a whole lot of people are big fans of. And then Corona Mountain, which is the final level in the game. It's hardly a whole area, but that's a very short walk to the final boss of the fight, which I think a lot of people consider to be like the unfinished level. It's just not very long. It takes you maybe 30, 40 seconds to get, maybe not that short, but just a few minutes to get through it. It's pretty quick.
There are a lot of like just pages and pages and pages of like controls with example images and like drawn art of the buttons as you press. So let's see. We'll do the controls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pages of controls.
Okay, so there you have it, guys. There is plenty of printed material. If you get the game used, though, and you don't have that instruction manual, which is a little bit more likely since the game's only available for the GameCube, and the GameCube market's pretty high right now. It's kind of hard to get a hold of this stuff unless you want to pay a pretty penny. You're not going to be able to see that stuff, which is a bit of a shame.
Well, if it ever does get ported to the Switch or something, I'm sure there'll be an option to view the menu. Or maybe they just full on fix it in a remake. I know James would love to review that for the site.
There's an entire page about the god awful map in this game.
Yeah, that is a bit of a shame, especially with. I mean, I love the blue coin segment we're doing here, but those blue coins, not a very good tracking system in that game.
No,
it's a bit of a shame.
It's a mess.
Also, there's some custom font work in this guide that's actually making me upset. Like just really bad fake tropical fonts. Like really.
Send me some of that. Send me a few pictures of that. I'll put them up.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Yeah, it's pretty ghastly. Not all the way through. Instead, sometimes it's just blue, a serif font on a sky background.
Oh, so they put blue on blue. Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
That's a choice you could make.
All right, that is a choice.
Not a good one. There's a section where it describes all the characters. It shows Mario, in case you didn't know who Mario was. Toadsworth, quote, Peach's longtime steward,
who has apparently just kind of been neglected by the Mario franchise. We haven't seen Toadsworth in a while, which is a bit of a shame.
I think the last time he appeared was the Mario and Luigi series.
I assume he died. He's old.
Okay, that'd be pretty good. He's a ghost.
He's just dead. Princess Peach, Princess of the Mushroom Kingdom, Toad, Peach's attendant. And then there's one for Pianta and Noki, and it just says Isle Delfino residents. I forgot that the Nokis exist, so I guess that makes them better than the Piantas.
Sure, you forgot their existence.
Who could this?
It's a bit of an upgrade.
Who could this mysterious figure be? He looks just like Mario. He's like anything like Mario. He's made of water.
Yeah, I didn't think he looked like Mario as a kid. That was always very confusing to me, is that they mistook him for Mario. I was like, I guess they have the same shape, but like the dude's blue. He's got red eyes. And I couldn't even make out his mustache.
Do they show other Toads in this game?
Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 of them.
Okay.
They're like the multicolored Toads.
Okay.
Like that whole thing, yeah.
I was curious if this render in here is actually from this game, but I guess it is. Yeah, there's a lot of work went into this guide.
They were really pushing the story. I remember like little marketing material being in other GameCube games behind the instruction manual that had just big, like, oh man, this is Mario's biggest adventure yet. He's gonna escape jail or whatever. He's been framed for something. I just remember how big of a deal they made the story of this, which like maybe that's contributed to the bias that I just had growing up playing it and really enjoying it. It's really a pretty bare bones story. It's enough for me to be satisfied, but it's a little bit different than the Bowser just kidnaps Peach storyline. But I'm not looking for the Godfather here.
I have my Nintendo Power ad in here, which if I send this in, I can get either the Super Mario Sunshine Player's Guide or the Super Mario Sunshine T-shirt, and an ad for Animal Crossing, which is just a card with a barcode on it for some reason. Animal Crossing is the place to be, man. We've got all kinds of cool cats living here, not to mention cool dogs, cool kangaroos, all kinds of cool critters, and all of us live in life at our own pace. You could be
Animal Crossing is more of a vacation than Super Mario Sunshine.
You could be too, Daddy-O.
They put Daddy-O?
Oh yeah, that's
localization team.
That's KK Slider. So the image is KK Slider, but it's really zoomed in. But it's just his in-game model. You know, his N64 ported in-game model. Yeah, it is incredibly blurry. Yeah, it's an ad for this, which I don't. It's entirely possible I never saw this. I probably never took the instruction manual of this game out, which is why I knew I had it. Because this is my original copy of the game. I mean, I've got every GameCube game I ever owned sitting on that shelf over there, and it's 3 shelves, I guess, 2 shelves.
So, James, I know you played this game recently for the retroactive.
I mean, it was like 2 years ago.
Sure, I consider that recent for you because you often like.
It's all relative.
You play a game and then you put it down for a long time. Like you said, you didn't play Mario 64 since the first time I think you'd played it until Sunshine. So
yeah, I've only actually touched it a few times since then. Like it's just. I would play that game again if it were convenient to play, but I never was like, I'm going to give Nintendo money to make it convenient to play. I'm like, nah, y'all already got my money once, and N64 games were expensive.
If they were to do the remake that everyone has been clamoring for, is that something you'd be interested in? If they had like actually beautied up the game a bit, they'd fixed some of these really bad shines, they worked on that camera, they'd made the menus a little bit nicer, they had really just fixed it from not being the rushed title that it was for summer, even though it didn't come out until your first week of school.
So basically autumn. Yeah. So interested is yes. Guaranteed buy, probably not. And a lot of it's a function of what we talked about at the start, why I was like, I need to get Sunshine in my hands today versus on the Switch, where it's like, well, let's see. Let's go through the list of games I still need to play. And that list is long. That list is very long. I just finished Daemon X Machina for the review. But I haven't even I don't even own the Platinum game. I can't remember its name.
Astral Chain,
yeah. And then we had the those JRPGs that came out last month that I'm blanking on that were remakes that have been announced for a million years. Grandia.
And then you've got like the many runs of Fire Emblem.
Yeah. I've beaten Fire Emblem once. Now hopefully the future runs of Fire Emblem will be faster. But, you know,
sure.
Like it's interested, yes. Guaranteed to buy, unknown.
Were you surprised that they didn't update Mario Odyssey with a Sunshine Kingdom?
No, I think Mario Odyssey did what they needed it to do, and they were probably happy to move on. I mean, it sold really well. I think
it's the highest selling 3D Mario platformer, which is why I was expecting DLC.
Yeah, I mean, I can see them just saying there's no like established history of selling you Mario DLC. Obviously, you can say the same thing about Zelda and be correct, but Zelda, like, there was an obvious antecedent that they could have made content out of, and you get a stupid motorcycle, so you know whatever. So I could see them just putting that team on and say go make new game, go make a new game that we can sell 10 to 14 million units of, as opposed to DLC where, you know, you may if you do a good job, maybe you get a 50% turnover, like you get half of the audience buys your DLC. Like, I don't know that I would buy Odyssey DLC, just because I don't know when I'd play it.
I think I would have if it came out a year ago. I mean, it's going on Odyssey's second birthday already, or third birthday, or something along like that. But it's been far too long. I think this is definitely going to be a Galaxy situation where they have more ideas, but it's the sequel territory.
Yeah, timing is everything with DLC.
Right. They had been sharing that, like, with the Smash Brothers DLC, for each character that comes out, they get less and less of their money return. So it makes sense that, like, maybe if that was the same case with if like they were to include a DLC pack of new kingdoms for you to go to, it might just make more sense to make a new game if they choose to make another 3D Mario sandbox title.
I'm looking at at my Sunshine box right now. And first off, the cover is just bad. It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
It's
So I will admit, as someone who's dabbled a little bit with graphic design, it is not a great cover, but I'm very nostalgic for that
like
cover.
they just went to and just grabbed every asset they had and just threw them on the box and said, "We have finished." So you have the logo, you have a render of Mario. I'm going front to back. You have the logo, you have a render of Mario, you have a render of a shine behind him. You have a ring, and then what is supposed
on that ring. Look at the ring itself.
Oh, I know. There's text on it that you can't read because other things are in front of it.
You can't read the whole thing. Yeah.
So all you can read is has more moves than ever. All, them, inkle water in the sunshine. Like, why?
I like the Super Mario Sunshine logo with the sea in the background, and it's kind of like
it's
towering.
Fine. It's fine.
Neat.
But like they just jammed it on top of the render of him, which is on top of the render of the shine, which is on top of the dumb ring, which inside the dumb ring is some badly drawn water. And then there's like a sunburst effect behind it.
Right, and then they have a bunch of lines behind it. The model of Mario is actually I don't know if it was made for this game or
it's not,
but
it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, they took this I think it's like actually promotional art Mario. Like they just made this to put in marketing material.
Yeah.
Because the GameStop near me has to this day a like full body size poster in their windows of Mario wearing that belt but with no F.L.U.D behind him, and it's always very weird to me whenever I walk by because I'm like, that's been up since like 2002. It's just very odd.
I think this art might actually be just generic Mario art. I mean it is on brand for Mario in that era, but yeah,
right.
It doesn't.
They would have had to add the belt and like the short sleeves, but still, it's.
Yeah, that pose I've seen in other games that aren't this one.
Well, my logic behind it is that, I mean, coming from a bias standpoint, and I'm trying to be objective here, is that anything with the word Mario on it is going to sell. And I think Nintendo by this point knew it. So if they were already being cut for time and rushing through development, I have to say, like, that was probably one of the lower things on their priority.
They clearly had to get this game out because, like I said, the last game I had played on my GameCube was friggin' June, which I think I finished. I want to say I finished Eternal Darkness July 4th weekend, because I want to say like I came back from the fireworks show and finished off the game. So like it's it had been a while since I had paid for a game. So they definitely needed to get this game out. And I think there was some other stuff coming out that fall, so they didn't want this game to slide too far. I think a bunch of stuff came out in September. But like it needed to come out. Like I was looking forward to Mystic Heroes. That's how bad the GameCube situation had gotten.
That's a shame.
Yeah, if you don't know Mystic Heroes, one, of course you don't know Mystic Heroes. Two, it is a what's the word for it? It's a Dynasty Warriors game, early Dynasty Warriors game. Well, early Dynasty Warriors, the modern style, not the fighting game. That's the first Dynasty Warriors. But it's based on like weird cartoonified versions of ancient Chinese legends. So it's not like Dynasty Warriors itself. It's more cartoony and child focused. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I think I still have Mystic Heroes somewhere. It's pretty bad. It's pretty terrible actually. Yeah, so they definitely wanted to get this out. I mean, Mario Party I think was their next game they published. And that's like months and months and months later.
Right, and they made a lot of those for the GameCube, which, like, in retrospect, yeah, you gotta wonder if it was, like, was it because it sold well, or was it more because, like, they needed those fillers for the GameCube?
The answer to that and other questions, such as, is it because it was cheap, is yes to all of the above.
Yeah.
Could you put those things out on a repeatable cadence? Yes.
was all Hudson back then.
Right, and I think the same thing's going to happen with Super Mario Party this year. It was cheap and easy to make, and it sold gangbusters.
Oh my God, Rain of Fire.
James, thank you for being on today's Blue Coin Cast. I'm going to award you with the very first blue coin.
Great.
With many to come.
So I only have to collect 230 more and I get something, right? God, like, why? Why? Like legitimately, why did someone say, okay, all right, you're going to get a shine when you collect 100 coins, but not every permutation of a stage will have 100 coins in it. We're not going to tell you which ones have it. It's just some of them won't. Sorry. Deal with it. But
also,
then
some of the blue coins are in levels that aren't in other levels.
Yeah, but then somebody woke up and said, "Hey guys, I have an idea. What if we put the red coins from Mario 64?" And that's already in. Don't worry about it. Okay. And then he came back later and said, "All right, so we have the regular coins, and we have the red coins. But what if we made you just collect blue coins randomly and then trade them to some dude for shines?" And they're like, "That's a genius idea."
So it's like 10 blue coins is a sunshine, right? Or a star. What do they call it? Shine sprite?
A shine.
Yeah. So that's 24 shine sprites just based off of the blue coins. That would take them down to 96. Maybe they just wanted to reach 120, but they were rushed.
Well, sure, because Mario 64 had 120. So here's the thing. And this is what's important. This is what you gotta remember. Is that Mario Sunshine has as many currency models as a mobile game. And that's upsetting to me personally.
More if you add the fruit you have to use for Yoshi as like a
Oh God, yeah, we need to talk. So I don't know if either of y'all watched the giant bomb feature they did on Mario Sunshine.
Steal My Sunshine? I didn't miss it.
Yeah, there is a sequence where they realize that Yoshi is a real piece of crap in this game because he's only going to wake up for his specific fruit, and then when he's hungry, he just implodes into nothingness. But they put the fruit next to him that he doesn't want, and he makes this shrieking siren sound forever until the fruit despawns. Yeah, it goes just forever. Forever, and he does not stop, and you just have to wait for the fruit to despawn.
Did he have a voice yet? Had they given Yoshi a voice?
He just made noises, I think.
Yeah, I think that was like maybe his last time.
I mean, canonically, he could talk in his last appearances.
That's what I'm saying. Had he had a voice?
No, he just made noises. But he
right.
Like, and he doesn't talk in Sunshine either. He doesn't even say his name. He just makes.
He's more of an animal in Sunshine than anything.
Yeah, but whereas in Super Mario World, he is a sentient creature who can talk because he leaves messages for Mario.
Oh, that's right. He does talk.
Yeah, so Yoshi has progressively become dumber as time has gone on.
But he's gotten more intelligent in the fact that he can talk.
Oh no, he just says his name. Now he's just a Pokemon. Like he just.
Oh my god.
He just says Yoshi. That comes from Yoshi. Actually, no. I think he says his name in Yoshi. What's the N64 game?
Yoshi Story.
Yoshi Story. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure because they sing in that game the really obnoxious song. But I think he also says Yoshi in that. But yeah, at this point, he no longer is capable of forming complex thoughts. He doesn't dictate into his speaker box, which implies that he can talk. He just chooses not to. He just kind of says his own name. He doesn't even sing anymore. He just says his own name. So Yoshis have Greg. I regret to inform you, your favorite character is progressively like becoming dumber and dumber, to the point where like his long-term viability as a species is effectively not assured.
Well, they are made out of like cardboard and felt in the new one. So Yoshi's Crafted World.
There you go.
Does he talk in Odyssey? That's the real question.
I think it just does.
I don't think he does.
I think he just makes kind of like grunty sounds.
He doesn't have a chance to. Mario like throws his hat on him as soon as he appears.
Yeah, it's not because it's not Yoshi talking at that point. It's Mario having possessed him, talking through
Oh
him.
no, that's even worse.
So I don't know. I do have the disc out right now because took the. It is a very. The disc is just this very cartoony, like simplistic drawing on it. It's blue, and then they've carved out clouds, and then the black. All the GameCubes had like the black 2/3.
Right. Yeah.
They're using that to effectively be the horizon. And then they've just got blue and they've carved the logo, and it's very pleasing. And in fact, would have been minimalist. It would have looked better than the game box. Actually, it's kind of a nice minimalistic look. I bet there's a version of this that's got a gold box. Like, I feel like this is the kind of game they would have done it for, and it would have looked atrocious.
I wonder, does the Japanese version have a different box art?
Probably, because Japanese GameCube games aren't shaped like North American ones. They're
Right, that's what I'm wondering.
They're small.
No, it looks like it's the exact same. The logo's a little bit different, but it's the same thing.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have the sunburst. I don't think. I thought the slipcover actually had the logo and like the city on it.
Well, yeah, actually, you're right. The slipcover has the American box art with the Japanese logo, and then the actual box has him looking down at the player, and there's the city.
Yeah,
I'll put a picture up.
Yeah, so because I know I've handled a Japanese copy of the game. In fact, NWR, when they reviewed it the first time, were reviewing Japanese copies of the game because Billy imported a bunch of them. So yeah, they obviously didn't get the fine narrative that is Super Mario Sunshine.
Why is Mario in court all of a sudden? What's happening?
Why is Mario in jail where he belongs? Right. Why does this airplane that would obviously never actually fly being flown across the ocean?
I don't know how he would have reviewed it, because like a lot of that, like even the watermelon level, like how would you know what to do there?
Figure it out. I mean, the camera does pan you over there. The character talks, and the camera flies back to a watermelon.
Sure. So
I mean, keep in mind, Mario's target demographic includes a significant number of people who cannot read yet, or are not comfortable readers. They are learning readers. And so
that was me. I didn't learn till Animal Crossing.
Yeah. So a lot of times they telegraph through depiction what you need to do. So I mean, you couldn't read, but you played the game. So I could read at that point. I was literate.
Those like camera shots where they would like kind of show you at the beginning of each level like what to do. Those were actually very helpful for a kid like myself and probably Brett. But there's the one where after you unlock Noki Bay, where there's like that big rainbow pillar of light coming out of the Dolphin Plaza statues, you have to like stand there, look at the sun. For some reason, like it always, there comes a point in the game where it always shows that one, even though like I've done everything in that level. And that was also very confusing. Like, why is it always defaulting to this particular if it's cueing me to do something there, I'll go there. But I remember always thinking like, I think I've done everything there.
So I ran into that in the retroactive, and then during the stream, it kept going back over there, and I'm going to the last stage, which we haven't talked about, but is bad. The boat ride is really bad, which is funny because I actually cleared it on the first run. Like I just got lucky and cleaned it, but like it's just this slow. It's basically a slow auto scroller. In 3D
it's
space.
Really good physics. If I remember correctly, like they did it accurately. It's just not very fun.
Yeah, it just doesn't need to be that. I mean, it's the same thing with the squids. Like you can do it, but you didn't have to. So yeah,
the squids reminded me of Mario Kart too much, and that's why I kind of enjoyed it. I was a huge Mario Kart fan at that time. Like I had never seen anything like Mario Kart, so. When I got more chance to race, I was like, this is perfect. I love this.
I distinctly recall hitting the dock after the one where you have to collect all the coins.
That
really
was
fast.
The one that got me. But everything else, like when I inside the little sewer, like that was a lot of fun. It felt like a mini Mario Kart track.
Man, just give me the shine. I beat the stage. Just give it to me. Or the fact that Mario dies when he lands in the water. It's like, oh, you squid it. You're dead. You're dead now, Mario. Rest in peace. Yeah, it's a weird game, and I think when people talk about Odyssey and they sort of viewed this as the spiritual successor or whatever terminology you want to use for that. I think what this game delivers on, or what Odyssey delivered on that this game probably didn't, is this game's kind of like weird obsession with theming. Like it's like everything needs to be the tropical vacation, which is very unusual for a Mario game. They don't usually worry about that kind of theming. I think that at sometimes that might have like forced them to, okay, we need to have the pollution stage now. And whereas Odyssey, they basically just said do whatever we want and we'll just we'll just figure it out. Ultimately, they're still basically taking the gameplay engine of Mario's Locomotion and then building stages around it. Like you can see in both these games, stages that are built just to show off, like, here's a really, really crazy thing you can do with the controls. But it doesn't, what's the word for it? Because they're able to just vary it up and they're not beholden to any one configuration or any one theming. I feel like it let them do more, so if everything felt less samey. I mean, like the cooking world versus the dinosaur world versus the robot world, you know, even if mechanically what you're doing isn't particularly different, it still feels quite fresh as you roll through them because they're all so visually and tonally unique.
And I think I really appreciate it for that. Not to like bring up Luigi's Mansion 3 for the sake of my interest in that game, but they are doing something kind of similar with that, where the theming is entirely a hotel, and each floor, while drastically different in terms of like how Mario Odyssey's kingdoms are very different from one another, they all have a bit of a spin on like what it would like a hotel theming connection. Like they showed in the direct that there is this like Egyptian tomb like level, and it's like a suite. It's where the bedrooms are, and then there's a pirate level, which is very different from the pyramid, but it's actually a pirate show. It's like a restaurant, and like it's all something you would see in a hotel. There's a dance floor, you know. It's like it's very interesting how each floor can be something very different but also tie into like the overall theme, which is kind of like taking both elements of what Sunshine and Odyssey are doing. And I don't want to say everything in Sunshine was the same. Like they did have like that haunted hotel, they had a carnival park, they had a lot of beaches, but by and large I don't think that they were as drastic.
They all still had the same visual appeal.
Right. You could always see those other areas on the island if you were just like looking around.
I think ultimately, like as people got tired, you know, and some of the real bastardy stuff is late in this game. I think it probably, even some of the ill-conceived stuff like the watermelon we talked about, that's a pretty late.
Or that Poison Lake level with the, yeah. Just getting there with Yoshi is a pain.
Or fighting the stupid PD Piranha again, or the Mario, the Gel Mario again.
The game is a whole hard-on for just reusing bosses over and over again. I think you fight Gooper Blooper like 3 times or something.
Yeah.
And I think Mario Odyssey does that a little bit as well. Not so much with the bosses. Like there is like the whole you
series
can refight them each once, but a lot of the moons are kind of repeated. Like, you know, finding Captain Toad in each kingdom kind of thing.
But in those cases, it's because they're contextualizing the same thing in these vastly different worlds. It still feels fresh. Whereas in this case, I'm fighting PD Piranha on the beach again.
Mm-hmm.
This time I'm on a roller coaster while I fight PD Piranha again.
Oh yeah, shooting those pink balloons.
Yeah. Also, that stage sucks.
Yeah, I think that's one of those like 9 you were talking about.
Oh yeah, it's on the list.
That's on there.
That one, the 2 of the shines in the stupid pachinko machine, the watermelon, the poison lake, the sandbird. I actually cleared the sandbird pretty easy.
I never had any problems with the sandbird, to be honest.
Have you seen the Mario Maker level of the sandbird?
Yes. Oh yeah. It's bad.
Pretty good. Oh, I loved it. Really?
It's just not particularly fun, and the risk of failure is so high. It's just like, oh god, I have to do this stage again. Pretty much all the like timed red coin in the abyss stages are not great. But anything that involves Chucksters is a mistake.
Cleaning the eel's teeth as Mario is a dentist.
Yeah, that one's not great. Yeah, there's some. That's a very Banjo-Kazooie stage.
Yeah, it is.
There's a few of these. They're like Banjo-Kazooie things that seem to have leaked into this game. But not funny. So like in Banjo-Kazooie, you'd be pulling stuff out of his teeth that is of maybe somewhat subversive.
That's actually a great point. I hadn't thought about that, but Banjo-Kazooie, like that became known as like the 3D platformer after Mario 64, but this is the second game in the Mario 64 lineage. So like how much of the Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Donkey Kong 64, how much that really impacted the development of Super Mario 64? Or Super Mario Sunshine.
I mean, the people making Sunshine obviously had played those games. because their company published them. So they would have been around them. So yeah, I'm sure some thought in what those games are and understanding what expectation of consumers would be.
Maybe those blue coins are maybe a small result of that. I don't know.
Maybe
the late schedule, the interest in beefing it up some.
Nobody farts out eggs, so that's good. Or has them squeezed out from its body all the way out through its mouth.
No, but Yoshi does barf. So
Yoshi does barf. Oh god, that's a move in this game. Yoshi spins and barfs.
Oh yeah.
In a spray. God, this game.
And you can turn enemies into platform with them. I don't know how that one works.
Yeah, it's alarming.
We have been going for a while, and you said you had to get going soon. So
I take care of some stuff.
For sure. Thank you so much for being on as our very first guest on the Super Mario Sunshine Blue Coin cast. As joking and fun as it is, this is a fleeting podcast because we only have 240 coins to award. 239 now because James has so valiantly taken the first one. Great conversation.
So a message to owner of Nintendo World Report, Neil Ronahan, there will be repercussions. Radio Free Nintendo has just removed one of its limiters, and now its power is surging.
You should tell everyone about our new podcast on Radio Free Nintendo. They might not know about us yet.
Yeah, there's a podcast that we've recorded for like 13 years, and I've been on like 10 of them for some reason, and I host it, which is all kinds of a bad decision. And to drive the point home, an episode just went out today that talked about the Direct and a bunch of events. But I'm not going to talk about that one. I'm going to talk about the one previously where I got really passive aggressive about getting an email from people about my pronunciation, and then essentially solicited emails about shaving techniques, pronunciation guides, Capcom rants, and a bunch of other stuff. I think there were 5, and we got emails about all of them. There are about 17 emails in the inbox about shaving, specifically full body shaving. So Neil, you can look forward to that being the Patreon podcast for next month.
Oh, we should do a telethon segment, Brett. We could do a live Super Mario Sunshine bit. James, you want to come back?
No. My telethon day is usually so busy that like, hey, can you do this segment? I don't know. This is so hard.
Oh, come on. Think of it like a vacation. How appropriate.
Mario spends his vacation in prison. You didn't think of this.
He got to ride a roller coaster.
I mean...
And eat watermelon? I think it's worth it.
Yeah, he actually didn't get to eat the watermelon.
He did recently. Did you see that marketing post about him eating watermelon?
Yeah, and I saw you freaking out in the NWR Slack, like, "Oh, it's I want to put you on blast. Screw this." It's like no, and everybody in there's like, "Xander, you all right? This is sometimes a render is just a render."
Well, I said that at the very end. I said, or it's probably just a render that they weirdly made detailed for a summer post. But
well, I mean, they just had to pull the Odyssey resource because there is him running around in his bathing suit in Odyssey.
Yeah, it's straight up the Mario Odyssey model. He's got the hair and the blue and all that, the blue eyes that are detailed, and he's got toenails for some reason. I mean, I don't know. Detective Xander was on that case.
All right. I mean, you can go spend all your time looking at Mario's feet. I just please do not write an article about this. I'm not. I'm still shook from the from some previous articles from staff members who will go nameless. So deeply shook.
Oh man! All right, we need to wrap up this vacation. You know, every party's got to end eventually, right?
This is true.
So if you want to follow us at Nintendo World Report, we've got every bit of Nintendo coverage. James is from the RFN podcast, as mentioned. But James, is there anywhere else that they can find you?
I mean, besides Nintendo World Report, I mean, at my house, I live here.
Are you vacationing anywhere anytime soon? I'm just kidding.
I am, but I don't know that I'm going to go out. You can see James when he makes appearances in the Pacific Northwest this month. No. I mean, what are you asking about? Are you asking about like, am I writing?
Most people just say their Twitter handle.
Oh, okay. You just said that. At NW, I'm on Twitter at NWR_James. I think that's right. I don't have to type my own Twitter handle very much. And I occasionally get in arguments with myself on the RFN Podcast Twitter feed, which is at RFN Podcast, which is allegedly a sentient podcast Twitter account.
I hope that the Sunshine Podcast can rival the RFN Podcast someday soon.
The trash... The podcast specifically, or just the Twitter account? Because the Twitter account's a trash fire.
I would say the podcast. I don't think we're going to make a Twitter account for the Blue Coin Cast. I think we might just take leverage of NWR's.
See, they don't... NWR doesn't tweet about RFN episodes, so we have to cover for ourselves.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will take care of that. Don't you worry.
I think there's good reason.
Yeah, probably.
I think a decision was made.
That extra child, that we just need to let them do their own thing.
He's setting the park bench on fire again. It's fine.
Oh, dear.
Look, he's wearing some clothes. It's fine.
Well, as F.L.U.D said at the very end of Super Mario Sunshine, the vacation starts now.
Why does F.L.U.D talk? Why does F.L.U.D talk?
Bye, everybody.
Son of a bitch.
See ya.
This video is made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more. All for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.